Attention, everybody. The views and opinions expressed on the show are not necessarily those of Acts Ministry, Acts Media Group, and or their affiliate and subordinate ministries and or nonprofits. So without any further ado, it's Brighter Living Live with your host, Steve Mickey Mac-tastic, and his guest. Take it away, Steve.
Thank you very much, Matt. Good morning. Good morning to Facebook land and all its wonderful social platforms. We have a great show for you. Great, Jerry Lashley from I'm just going to say from Country Gospel Music Association or CGMA, and so he's a proud partner, and so is CGMA. They're really great people, and Billy and Donna, they're fantastic. I think they're celebrating their 125th convention, or they did 125th convention, not year, 125th convention. And so I'm proud of both of them. And, of course, then Troy and Belinda, they're also part of CGMA, and their show's coming up next. Well, we're going to talk here shortly about what you've got in store, and we're going to talk about the Pledge of Allegiance and how it's broken down by Red Skelton.
It's a great story.
It is. So, but first, I just want to remind people that be praying for the city of Branson. Tomorrow they're going to be voting on the face mask mandate. So and there's a lot of people against it. I didn't see a lot of people for it. So we'll see what happens. So just continue to pray for those people in Branson and the city government, that the Lord softens their heart and whatever the Lord lays on their heart to. And so, and then just pray for my ministry, Sporos, which is Greek for seeds. It looks like I'll be going to Comanche, Texas, to Comanche County Cowboy Church or something like that in September.
That's wonderful, Steve.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. Our brother Jim Nelson, he's got a great church down there, and the way his church is, it looks like it's in one of those old airplane hangars way back when. It's in the middle of this field, and I forgot how many acreage he said he had, but it's a beautiful place.
I attended a church just like that in Conroe, right in the middle of an airfield.
Yeah.
And it was amazing because it was full of people.
Yeah.
And boy, there was no airplanes flying on those days when he was preaching.
Well, that's a good thing. But I always tease and say it's probably in the middle of a cornfield, but
doesn't make any difference.
That's right. And I don't know if it was in the middle of a cornfield, but that church is really amazing. I've seen the inside of it through video, and we had a past guest, Jaden Laborde. She was down there the end of June and did a mini concert and celebrating her 17th birthday. Well, you know Jaden Laborde.
Sure.
Okay, Jody Meyer,
yes.
Mom, and they've been up here. They love being up here.
Well, good.
And so she was on my show a few weeks ago, a couple of weeks, something like that. And so she brought a guitar up there, and she did a song that she wrote called "I Pray." And so what you also sing, but you sing a cappella, acapulco as we say it. Yeah. Or with tracks, but obviously you're just here to just talk about your ministry.
Yeah, don't ask me to sing. I may start.
No, please don't. No, I'm just kidding. He's a great singer, folks. You have to check. You need to come to the luncheons.
Oh, really?
The luncheons, well, at Denny's, wherever they're going to have the luncheons, once a month. I think it's the first Saturday of the month. The CGMA luncheons.
Yes, I do that.
Yes.
I'll be there next week.
Oh, good.
Saturday the 1st.
All right. Oh, man, it's coming up already.
Yeah. Well, Steve, I started out in business over almost 50 years ago. Mm-hmm. But in 1994, I got the idea I wanted to start something with really a great acronym. Mm-hmm. ACTS.
Okay.
American Church Technical Support. It was to provide information technology to churches. And back then, most churches had very little skill working with computers.
Right.
Look at what you have here today. All the things you're hooked up to and what are you doing? You're broadcasting on a wide range to people through computers.
Mm-hmm. Around the world.
Well, yeah, but back then that wasn't done.
Right.
So anyway, I was really proud to have that acronym. But now I see that, the ACTS group here, that's cool. Yeah. And they're doing great work.
Yes, they
and
are.
and all the seminars they have. I like to go to every one of those.
Yeah, did you have you seen the seminars online that we had through this Act Fest?
No, I just saw them on the wall out there.
Oh, okay.
So that's wonderful. So you're doing a great work.
Yes, thank you.
But getting back to Red Skeleton, you know, he was a great guy.
Right.
He died a long time ago, but he was a man who could sit in front of a microphone and you can almost see every movement he was making with his face.
Right.
And he would do some of the craziest things, right?
Exactly.
And he was a wonderful person to be watching on TV when he came on TV. Now, I don't know if you remember his show, but it was on in the 70s. And, of course, I heard him on the radio first. And then when I heard him on the radio, I laughed my heart out. Then I
Yeah.
saw him in movies, and then I saw him on TV, and I loved it.
Yeah, I used to watch him quite a bit, especially when he appeared on talk shows.
Yes. But unfortunately, we get older and older, and all those things die away, like this guy that just died, Regis Phillips. He's gone, but his memories will be there.
Yeah.
But old Red Skeleton said, you know, folks, the Pledge of Allegiance is as important today as it was when it was written. And somebody said, yeah, why? Well, why? Because it tells us what we want to believe in as Americans. You were talking about the virus
Right.
and the mask.
Right.
Will that keep us strong if we have a mask on? Maybe.
Maybe.
But social distancing is probably better than mask. When a person speaks, like I'm talking, if this microphone went in front of me, my fluids would go out in the air 6 feet. That's pretty long. If you're singing, it can go as far as 12.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's great. I mean, that's good to know.
Well, now you go into
So
Walmart.
I don't want to stand in front of a singer then.
No. Now you go in some place and they have these plastic shields.
Right.
If you go to like this and think that you're going to get them. But if you stand in plastic shield, it's not going to go anywhere.
Right.
And so it's all just talk. But going back to what Red Skeleton said about the the Pledge of Allegiance. How many times did you say the Pledge of Allegiance during your lifetime, Steve?
Oh man.
How many times?
I would say a lot because I was a Cub Scout. Of course, in school back when they had the Pledge of Allegiance, they did it over the speaker,
Yeah.
and then they did the Star Spangled Banner.
Yeah.
I did that through, I think, the 4th or 5th grade, and then it kind of started fading away.
Yes.
And as I got into junior high, I think they only did it a couple times. I can't remember exactly when it actually stopped.
And then they banned it in about 68.
Okay.
And that's when it stopped.
Really?
Yeah,
In
because
68?
they added something to the very end of it. And I'll tell you about it, okay?
Okay. Well, you know, this portion of my show, Brighter Living Live, is brought to you by Jennifer's Teas, as well as the Ozark Craft Mall, which Jennifer's in charge of. Ozark Mountain Craft Mall, which is at I got to get the address right. I don't want to give you the wrong address. But anyway, it's across from, if you're familiar with Branson and 76 Boulevard, it's across the street from Grand Country. And it's a great shop. She's got 30 vendors in that mall.
It's a very busy place.
Yeah, it is. And she's got all kinds of different crafts, from soap scrubs to jewelry to my honey sticks. Oh, did I say that? Anyway, there's just a different variety of different things, and let Jennifer know if she also does T-shirts and mugs and tumblers and things like that. So if you want them handmade, yep. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. I'll throw it out there again, and I'll try to get an address. If not, we'll make sure that an address pops up here soon. Okay.
Well, Red Skeleton said something to his audience one night on television. He said, folks, when I was a student in school, in the 7th grade, I had to leave. But until I got through that school system, I always had a beautiful teacher. And one day he said to us boys, he says, fellas, you're talking about the Pledge of Allegiance and you're just mumbling about it. It's not the way it's supposed to be said. He said, I want you to listen to me very carefully. He said, I. That means me, an individual, a committee of one. Pledge. I dedicate all my worldly goods to give, without self-pity, allegiance, my love and my devotion, To the flag, our standard, O glory, a symbol of freedom wherever she waves. Of the united, that means we have all come together. States, individual communities. There's 48 states. Now, that'll change later on in this message. Each of these states have pride and dignity and purpose. We're all divided by boundaries, but united with a common purpose, love of our country, of America. And to the republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in everybody who choose to be by the people to be governed by, and the government by the people for the people, for which it stands, one nation. Can you imagine that? Meaning so blessed by God. Indivisible. Well, that's incapable of being divided. Now, we know that was tried many years ago in 1860. Didn't work. With liberty, which is freedom and the right to power to live one's own life without threats or fear of any sort of type of retaliation. And justice, the principles and qualities of dealing fairly with others, for which it means as much our country is mine as it is yours. Well, Brad went on to say, as I was a small boy, two states have been added to our country. Now we have 50 states, including Hawaii and Alaska. And then at the end of the Pledge of Allegiance, the words were added, under God. And now, folks, Red said, wouldn't that be something if they eliminated that from our schools because it's a prayer? And that's exactly what happened. The Pledge of Allegiance was taken out of our schools for a long time, and we're not allowed to be said. And a lot of schools don't do it today.
Yeah, they're trying to take the under God out of the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't know if it's official, but I heard that they're trying really hard to do that.
Yeah.
Why
Well,
is that? I mean,
because they don't want them to do it. They don't want them to have that. And
they don't want God in charge of the country.
That's right. But what's the dollar bill got on it, Steve?
In God we trust.
Well, why is that?
Because our founding fathers, our founding fathers, built this country on God principles.
My son was in Africa.
And we want to trust in God because He's the one that we base our country after.
My son was in Africa, and he had dollar bills on him. He was the richest man in that whole town of 30,000 people. He had $5 on him. Nobody in that town had a dollar bill, and everybody wanted to see it. Can you imagine that, Steve? That dollar bill is the most powerful piece of paper in the world because of its value. It
Really?
stands for the United States.
Right.
Even England's money is no good. France. If you have a £5 note in England, it's this big. If you have a £10 note, it's this big. If you have a £20 note, it's this big. In America, the dollar, the $20 bill, the $100 bill, they're all the same size. Isn't that cool?
Wow.
The dollar bill is the value we build our economy on. And if the dollar bill is worth anything, so's our economy.
Amen.
So when I sing God Bless America now,
Oh, you know, they sing that at Steamy Joe, and
I know they do.
and when they start singing it, the whole place just erupts, and people stand. I mean, I've never been in a restaurant where they've done that, except for maybe a live place where they do live. But I don't think I've ever seen that in a smaller restaurant like that.
Well, they have a restaurant about 2 miles west where all the waiters and waiters sing, and they do it there too.
Oh, wow! I haven't been there when
You-
they've done that.
Well, that's wonderful because everybody gets excited. It's a lot.
Great. No, I'm not saying it. I think it's a great idea, and more restaurants should do that.
They use canned music, on CDs, so they blast it out really good. They don't use a piano. That's wonderful, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Everybody should be somewhere where they can feel good.
That's right.
I love going out to Branson. I've been going out 45 years.
I was just going to, can you give a little bit of your testimony?
Well, I became a Christian when I was a young man, and I didn't have a father. So a few years ago, I took a CD and I sang on it, a song, and I told my testimony on that with why I did it. So one night I was in church, and they were saying, come home, ye who are sinful and lonely, come home. And I got up out of my pew and went down and kneeled down and I prayed. I asked Jesus Christ to become my Father here on earth as in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And from that age of 8 years old, I was baptized, and I accepted Jesus to be my Father. Now at the age of 82, he's definitely still my Father.
Amen.
And when I get up in the morning, sometimes I have to apologize to him because I've had evil thoughts already.
Mm-hmm.
It's
and
amazing.
it happens.
And then I have to remember that he forgives and forgets. And if we walk with him and talk with him, he will keep us going day in and day out. I have 4 children, and I have only 3 grandchildren, and one died a week ago. And it was just a tragic death. Now I only have 2 grandchildren left. My mother had 9 kids, and she had about 100 grandchildren.
Wow.
And I'm serious. My grandma, she had 11 children, and she had 1 million grandchildren. There were Reeves all over the world.
Wow.
The Lashley family started in South Missouri. They came from England in 1776.
Wow, great year.
And we were all Southerners, and we fought against the North in the Civil War.
Wow.
But I didn't know that when I was born, so I grew up to be a Northerner.
What state was that?
Well, you are what you are.
Right.
And then I read my history and began to understand that everybody in my family back before the turn of the century, they were all Southerners. And they didn't like being a part of the Union. And the greatest battle in the Civil War started in 1861 in August,
Mm-hmm.
right down near Fredericktown.
Mm-hmm.
That's on the south side of the state of Missouri, just about 100 miles south of St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
And the rebels kicked the North pretty bad. And thousands of people died that day. So
Wow.
I just read about that this week.
So you learn a lot of history then.
Well, I love history.
Yeah, history is great and it's too bad that kids nowadays today, man, and it's kind of funny because it's funny, but it's not funny when you see these talk show hosts go out and say, I'd like to see how much these kids really know about their history.
Yeah.
And they're college students.
And they don't know anything.
And they don't know anything.
Because they don't teach it.
And so if they do teach it, they're sleeping class or they just blow it off.
Yeah.
And then they somehow they get into college and they take it again. They're like, who? What? Who's this guy? And they're showing the picture of a current vice president or president, and they're like,
They don't know them. Yesterday, I started studying the Bible and the law.
mm-hmm.
And I went to Leviticus, and I went from the start to the back, all the way to the end of it. And I couldn't believe how many laws there were. 13,000 and over 13,000 laws that a Jew had to obey every day.
And I guess we're not talking about the 10 Commandments because that's separate.
Yes.
That's part of.
Oh, yes.
There's 600 and something really laws in the
Yeah.
10 Commandments, but we only had 10 that we went by.
Well, the 10 didn't come until Moses went to the mountain several hundred years after the law was
But
given
there
to
was
them.
actually 600 and something laws.
Yeah. And he brought the laws down, the 10 Commandments down, and he gave them to his people. But that, according to Deuteronomy, those were the last days of Moses, because soon after that he died.
Right.
And most people don't know that. But Jesus changed all of that in Matthew 5:17. He said, I have come to abolish all that law and give you a new law. Believe in me. I am the law. If you believe in me, you can have salvation eternally.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's something that I found out that I've forgotten. That you really have to remember that you can't live all these laws and win.
Mm-mm.
It's like if you go down the street, which I go down the street usually about 10 miles over the speed limit. Coming up here, I saw myself going 85 miles an hour. And man, I was...
Oops.
No, but everybody around me is doing it. And I passed the police car, and he didn't even look at me. And I thought, whew, but I slowed down.
Right.
I'm an old man, Steve,
Really? Nah.
but a heavy foot can make anybody a speeder.
That's right. You can be a young man and be a speeder.
A woman was arrested the other day for going 455 miles an hour in her car. That's true.
455.
She got a ticket. She was actually going 155, but the police car, his radar
Was all goofed up.
and said 450 miles, and he actually wrote that ticket up and gave it to her.
Are you serious?
That's-
With the 455?
Yeah, that was on television, and I about fell over, and it couldn't be, you know. But why was a woman who
What
was,
happened? Do you know what happened to that? I mean,
Well, she didn't have to pay it. The judge laughed at it. But here's the thing: a woman of 55 years old is driving 155 miles an hour.
what in the world?
Can you imagine how she was flying?
Just imagine if somebody ran out in front of her.
They wouldn't be able to run out in front of her. It was so.
It was that fast, but you know,
But if she hit a rock or a tire blew, she'd be dead.
yeah.
But that's life. Sometimes we run so fast from God that we never have time to look back and understand that He's standing right behind me. And that's something that they sang on Saturday night when I was with Gary Paxton's daughter. She was working the sound channel,
Right.
and somebody started singing Gary Paxton's song. He was there all the time.
Beautiful song.
Yeah, but she forgot the words and started crying.
Oh, Debbie did?
No, the
Deborah-
woman singing.
Oh, the woman singing.
And Debbie just stood there and said, "Now, calm down, slow down." The music kept going, and the woman just kept talking like I'm talking to you. And then she came to, "He was there all the time, waiting patiently in the line." And Gary Paxton, I heard him say this to me. I was there when he said this. A long time ago, about 10 years, he said he turned around and saw God standing behind him. Gary Paxton was an alcoholic. He used drugs. He just was stoned so bad he couldn't remember anything. He wrote 2,800 songs, and he couldn't remember one of them. But that day when he came out to sing his song, he was there all the time. He had it on a piece of wallpaper. He rolled it out. It was 36 inches long and 20 inches tall, and he had the words written on it. And he sang it for us. So it was great.
Yeah, his place is something else. I mean, Vicky's had me over to the house and his wife and the basement has just files and files and files of all these side B songs that he wrote, and
Yeah.
she wanted Rachel and I to help put these in order and put them on. Like, wow, that's a lot. we never get the virus got us, and so we were planning on moving to South Carolina, so that's why we never finished doing it. But we're planning on going back to help her out, and Vicky will be on the show talking about her, Gary, and about the songs he wrote. And
Yeah, I met her with you last year when we did the show down at with. I can't think of the guy's name. He's the guy who gives the instruments to people.
oh, Jimmy Jack.
Yeah, Dave Jack. She was there as the MC, and she said, "Jerry Lashley, come up here." And she looked around. She says, "I don't even know what he looks like." I stood up and waved at her. But we got to be really good friends then.
Right.
And she was just delightful.
Yeah,
Sweet.
she makes friends quick.
She did. After a while, we went out there in the hallway and talked for a half hour. And I learned a lot about her because she really lived with a man who was an icon.
Mm-hmm.
And he was really weird at times.
Oh yeah, that's what he was known for, though.
Yeah, but that was her husband.
Yeah, of course we all know. If you're watching and you know who we're talking about, you already know that he wrote Alley Oop, or he was a producer of the Alley Oop and Monster Mash and
And what's his most famous song at October?
Monster Mash.
Bum 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 bum. Bum bum.
Boom, 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 boom.
Boom, boom.
Yeah. So he says, I think Vicky said that. Oh, he didn't like that song at all.
Well,
So,
he said he liked the money.
yeah, he did.
Every year that he gets paid, or his estate does now, from that song.
Yep.
Isn't that cool?
Yep. He really. I mean, back then that was a cool song, but I guess as he got older, he just maybe stopped liking it. I can't remember exactly what Vicky said, so I'm not going to quote. I'd rather wait for her to say it or give me the right quote.
Well, in October, when you're doing the show,
Right.
and Halloween comes around, you'll hear it again.
Oh, I'm sure I will. And there's different versions. Actually, Gary told me, he said there's a rap version of it now.
Yes.
And people have turned the show around. I mean, turned the song around, and they've either rapped it or they've changed the wording or something like that.
Well, it's
And
easy to do.
it is.
It's
It's one of those songs.
It's got a beat,
Yep.
and you can do it in rap.
Right.
So that's the world going around.
Right.
Gary never heard of rap.
No. And that's why he said, I guess they had that song in a movie or something that.
Yes.
And I can't remember the name of the movie, but I guess he gets
Well,
royalties for
the
it.
Munsters on TV. Remember?
Mhm.
That was their theme.
Da-da-da-dum,
Yep.
da-da-da-dum, da-da-da. Oh, no, that's the Addams Family. Excuse me. Oops.
That is
Oh.
the Addams Family. Yeah.
Well, they were kooky.
Well, everybody loved them then.
Yeah. Well, I just got to remember, I got to be careful and not mention, we don't have the rights to mention certain names and stuff, the product, and until we get the copyright laws on that. So, folks, but you know what I'm talking about.
Well, we're talking about great people who have great ideas.
And the greatest idea was Jesus.
Yeah.
When-
And when Gary Paxton could write a song, he was there all the time after he wrote all those other songs. Gary was saying to himself, I'm going to walk today with Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
Not with not what I've been doing for all my life. And that's what he did from then on.
Yeah, he did.
And so that was what's important in life. It's like hitting a stoplight, and you say that red light won't change until you make up your mind where you're going. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You sit at a red light, and sometimes you get mad at it because it's so long.
Oh, yeah.
And then you say to yourself, I got to go. And you start to go before it's too soon. Or maybe you run a yellow light.
You know, I'm guilty of that one. You know,
A lot of people are.
but see, or it's funny when I'm speaking of traffic lights. You know, when you're sitting at a traffic light, or you're about ready to come to a traffic light, and they change the timing on the traffic light. And it used to be you used to run through a yellow light. Well,
Yes.
now there's been some times where I've run through a pink light or a red light when it changed real quickly. I don't remember this traffic light doing that, but the officer that pulls you over, well, that's always been like that. Maybe you haven't paid attention. You know, sometimes, and I said, well, the timing's changed on it.
Yeah.
You don't want to argue with a police officer. You just want to say yes or no, sir, or yes, ma'am, no, ma'am.
When you're pulled over.
Remember that, folks.
Yeah.
You want to say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, and do exactly what. And you know what? Just take the ticket. Don't argue about it. Because if it's frivolous, it's frivolous. If not, just pay the fine.
My problem is an officer will say to me, did you realize you were going 85 miles an hour? And you should always say, officer, I don't remember. Never say yes, officer, because I did that once. I went to court, and I said to the court judge, I don't remember that. And the judge says, what did he say, officer? And she read what I said. I had to pay the fine. That really ticked me off.
Oh, man.
But then
So-
again, I was guilty.
Right. But you were trying to say, I don't remember, as though you were being smart.
Well, now I was told, always
Or
say,
smart aleck is what
no,
I should say.
what should I say with the officer? All the cars are going the same speed I was.
I've heard that one.
And then you say he has, and the officer say, well, one of
Yeah, you know, when you say something like that, you're like, well, everybody else. A friend of mine actually said, well, I was just going along with the. I was right behind. I was the last one. How did you? Because you were the last one, and you were the last car that I could catch up with, and that's why. And well, now she tries to go along with the speed with everybody. Well, if you go along with the speed with everybody else, you'll be fine. But if you're the last one, I can catch up to the last one easier. I've heard that one.
you were drafting.
Exactly. So
the thing is, we all better about it live by the law. We live longer.
right, and
Everybody's
Pledge of
safer.
Allegiance,
Yeah.
most people don't know until you just read. And Red Skelton was the one that really broke it down. And of course, then Johnny Cash does his rendition of the Ragged Old Flag.
Yes.
Between that and
That
Red
was
Skelton,
beautiful.
those two
Yeah.
people, those two great people right there, when they break it down that way, and you just cry at either one of them. Because when Red Skelton does it, he breaks it down as though he breaks it down with one sentence or one few words at a time.
One phrase.
One phrase at a time. Whereas Johnny Cash, he kind of breaks it down like, well, you know what that Ragged Old Flag did? And he tells the story behind it.
Yeah.
And so I think, folks, we need to remember those. If you haven't seen it, and I'm talking about the younger generation, look it up on YouTube under Johnny
Yeah,
Cash,
that's right.
Pledge of Allegiance,
Yeah.
and you'll see what we're talking about.
The other guy, Greenwood.
Well, Lee Greenwood.
Yeah, his song was great too.
Oh yeah, my nephew, when he first came home from the first Iraqi war, or the first one that happened, he came home to Detroit, and my brother, he actually put the flags up on his car, and we put my nephew in it,
Yeah.
and we blasted that song, and people were beeping the horn as we were going along, and he started waving, and people were waving and honking the horn, and it was because we had that blasting, and it was just, I'll never forget that. That's the one song that reminds me of my nephew when he came home from from the war, from the Iraqi war.
That's good that you remember that.
And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't think. Well, that was a footage. In fact, they didn't put that footage on there, but on the local news station that night, we ended up being on the news of him. He was the first one to actually come home from the war that was in the area, and I think that's why they filmed him. He was on a local news station, and but we were so happy. I mean, just that song, and so every time that song plays, I remember that, and it just brings tears to my eyes.
What year was that? You know,
Well, it had to have been,
in the late '90s.
yeah,
Okay.
not well. Whenever the first Iraqi war started, that was 92, 93, probably 93, 94.
Okay, I remember that. That was good. That was a good time. But boy, it was sad to me.
Yeah.
You know, my wife said something the other day that blew me away.
What was that?
She said, "We got to get a gun."
You don't blew me away.
Well,
Oh, I thought you were trying to be.
no, she said we need to get a gun.
Oh, I see what you're
Did your
saying.
wife ever say that to you, Steve?
No, she never really thought about it, but I bet you it's crossed her mind. I don't know if she's watching because I don't have my watch party going, but
Well, you
she
know,
she might bring that up and surprise me.
that couple in Missouri,
Oh,
in,
yeah.
in Clayton, I grew up in that area. They stayed out in front of our house defending their home, and they got thrown in jail or their guns got taken away from them.
I think their guns got taken away or
But
they
they
got
were-
fined.
and they got fined. They could have spent time in jail, but they had a attorney to get them out.
Yeah, now see, with the way that he was waving the gun around, they I don't think they even really knew how to really shoot a gun because just the way they were waving the gun around.
No, that gun was not loaded, and it couldn't be fired. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, couldn't be fired. When they took it away from me, and they were dumbfounded. It was more for show, okay?
Okay.
But his wife had a pistol that had bullets in it.
Oh, so it was like a trick thing where they
no,
thought,
he was just trying to tell him, stay off my property and don't try to threaten me.
right.
Well,
that
now,
makes sense.
now the Attorney General of Missouri has said he is not guilty of anything. Every American in the state of Missouri can bear arms and protect their homes.
That's what I thought. Isn't that an open carry? We
Yes.
talked about it on
but
Morning Drive.
The Attorney General said that's what it is true, that you can do that. Now, if I had a gun in the house, it was a shotgun, and it carried 6 shells in it, and you just, it was 2 barrels.
Right.
No, it wasn't a 6
But I think everybody should get training. If you do not know how to shoot a
Yeah.
gun, I did in 6th grade
Yeah.
camp, learned how, but that was hunter safety. That was hunter safety course. And then in the Navy, I learned how to shoot a gun.
I imagine you did. Well,
And then I learned how to shoot a gun when I was a corrections officer.
yeah. Well, I took gun training also, but I don't want to carry one anymore.
I don't. Well, because of my situation with the dexterity and with the nervousness of my hands,
Yeah.
and I would just be afraid that I would accidentally shoot when I didn't plan on it and hurt myself or hurt people, and I just
Sure.
don't want to do that. I just feel like I don't want to carry a gun. Not that I don't want to protect my family, but
But I go to a church, Steve, and so do you. And I bet that you didn't know this. I bet that probably 40% of all the women over 50 have a gun in their purse when they go to church.
I wouldn't I would probably say yes now, but back a few years ago, I
No,
would
no.
say no way.
All these women have been trained on a course by a member of that church who is a fully established gun trainer. And he has these women go to his programs, and he teaches them how to shoot it, how to load it and clean it, and how to maintain it so they don't harm themselves.
Wow.
But that scares the jabbers out of me because I know those women, and a lot of them are as mean-spirited as I am.
So you don't want to tick them off.
No.
No, I'm sure there's a lot of women that I know, and I don't know, we may know the same woman that I just couldn't imagine. I can imagine them carrying a weapon, but I don't imagine that they would want to carry it or use it unless they absolutely had to.
I know, but I'm just saying it's amazing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you and I, we don't want to do it. But here are these older women. Some of these women are as old as I am. And I think, holy moly.
And they're carrying guns.
And my wife goes out to dinner with them.
Wow.
And you're at Luby's. No, not Luby's. Grand Country. Sitting around a table. Going over with pistol packing mamas.
Wow. Be careful now. If you go to Grand Country and you see a bunch of women sitting together, be careful.
Be nice to them.
Yes. And yes, be very nice to them. And they may tip you nicely.
Well, if I am sitting with them, I always pay the bill. Mm-hmm. Guarantees I walk out of there.
Without any problem.
Yeah. Well, life is good.
It's what?
Life is good if you
life is-
treat your women right.
Amen.
And that's what my wife was saying. She says that she just really worries now. We leave our doors open.
Mm-hmm.
And people can walk in our home anytime.
That,
That's not smart.
Billy and Donna, I don't think they leave their doors open, but
Yeah,
I
they
think
do.
They do.
Oh, yeah.
They live downstairs and their office is upstairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But anyway, I have a split level home.
Yeah, you're right next to your neighbors.
Oh, Billy and Donna.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're surrounded by good people.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a house down the street that is occupied with offenders who just got out of jail.
Wow.
Sex offenders.
Okay.
That's not very good. And they walk up and down the street all the time. And we've never worried about it until now. And see, all this doubt has come because of what we're doing right now for the last 4 months, the coronavirus. It scares the jammers out of people because of all the news every day. What do they talk about all day long?
Yeah, so you still keep your doors open?
Yeah.
What would happen if one of those men came and needed something but knocked on your door or said, "Hey, I need your help"? What would you do?
Loma would say hello to him. You know who Loma is?
Mm-mm.
Loma. He's a black dog that has a mouth full of teeth.
Ah.
And he doesn't like me when I walk in the door. I can come out, I can talk to him inside, go out the door and come back to the door and come in, and he attacks me.
Oh man, you look pretty good for not being for being attacked. No, but I know what you're saying.
But my wife and that dog are like this,
Oh.
and I'm over here.
He's very protective of Mama.
Yeah, so he's a good watchdog. So we
Yeah.
aren't exactly.
So you may leave your doors open, but as the old joke is, Jesus is watching you. You've heard that one?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what that reminds me of is Jesus is watching you.
But the thing is, Steve, you're young. When you get to my age, I'm about as fast as a caterpillar.
You're what?
It's about as fast
Oh.
as a caterpillar.
Fast as a cab. Yeah.
Yeah, by the time I move, I'm done.
Yeah.
if somebody walks in the
Well,
door.
you know, with my situation, I probably am, you know, I might be 57 now, but I might not run as fast as I used to, so I might be half done.
Well, that's why if I had a gun laying next to me, by the time I put my hand on it, I'd be dead probably. So,
Well, that's why I was about to say earlier that if you haven't had the proper training, you need to find somebody who is a gun or a licensed gun trainer
Yes.
that knows how and what to do and how to do it and learn how to hold it. And because, you know, it's getting bad out there, you know, in some areas of Missouri and some areas everywhere, it's getting to the point where if you don't have a protection on yourself, that's why I don't understand why they're trying to take the guns. I don't want to get into politics, and I'm not going to because I don't know enough politics to really get into it anyway. But, you know, for me, I want to protect my wife and my family any way I can. I'm just gunned. I have to relearn how to shoot a gun anyway. But I'm just afraid because of my dexterity that I'm going to have a problem.
one thing we need to always remember, Steve, is that with this coronavirus, people are not washing their hands properly or really doing themselves a disservice. Hot water and hot and good soap. Did you know they're not going to make hand soap anymore?
No,
They're totally stopping it. Nobody's buying it.
they're buying the liquid,
That's
the
right.
hand sanitizer.
And that hand sanitizer doesn't do the right job at all.
Depending on the sanitizer,
It
or-
doesn't matter which one. Your body does not react to it. After a while, it's bad for your hands and it's bad for your body.
Wow.
Use soap and water, hot water, and wash your hands repeatedly when you come in and go.
In 20 seconds at least.
For 20 seconds, 24.
24 seconds?
Yes, if you do that, you'll say it's a long time. But when you get done, your hands are clean. That's what I did this morning when I went out there. I used your sanitizer. Now, that's all I had.
Right.
But this microphone, it is really loaded with bacteria.
That's why we spray it down before each show
Yeah, see?
with 200 proof.
Yeah, and that takes away the bacteria. That's very important. You can take a bottle of water, one of those spray bottles, put cold water on it, and go to the store and buy the new Purex. It's clear, non-smelling, and it costs about $10 a gallon. But put 3 ounces or 2 ounces in that bottle, put a sprayer on it, and you have a coronavirus protection for your whole home.
Wow.
This table will hold the coronavirus for 12 hours. This microphone and this equipment, if the virus is on it, it can live on there for 48 hours. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, that's why we make sure we spray the table down, the microphones down, everything down.
Now the floor, you don't have to worry about. But it's where we touch. See where you're touching like this? That's how it gets passed in public. Every time you go into a store and you shop, my wife wears gloves. Plastic.
Latex or
And then when
whatever.
she comes home, she takes them off and throws them away.
Yep, that's what I was told that we need to do.
So if you go in a big store and you go over there and touch something like this folder, it's leather. Let's say 10 people have touched it before I have in the last 12 hours. Well, there's bacteria on it. That bacteria gets on my hands.
Yeah.
I touch my face. I put it in my ear. I suck on my finger. Whatever. I got bacteria all over me. So by washing my hands, going in, every store has a bathroom with hot water and soap in it. You can wash your hands when you start to go out to your car. You don't take that bacteria to your car. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
You don't want to put it on your steering wheel or your door handles. A lot of people forget to do that.
Yeah, and you know why they forget? Because they're not used to it. But I bet you by this time next year, it'll be second. Well, I'm hoping that'll be second nature.
It'll be by the time September comes.
I hope so.
The next month's going to be hard for
Right.
people.
Well, we're getting ready to wind it down, and so we're gonna. I need to at least bring up Ozark Craft Mall. I'd like to because Jennifer, she's getting us the staff and people here T-shirts as well as polos, and we'll start wearing those here real soon. And I'm hoping that today is the day. But folks, you need to go by the Ozark Craft Mall and tell them that I sent you, or the Brighter Living Live show sent you, Steve sent you, and tell them that and tell her, Jennifer, that if you have mugs or anything that you'd like to have made, shirts, let her know that you need to do that. And the mugs usually take couple days depending on the size of the mug. But if you ask her, I think it takes 24 to 36 hours for the paint, not paint to dry, but the acrylic or whatever to dry. And so make sure that you tell them or to get there in. Like I told you, I'm sorry about the address. I knew the address, but for some reason today, it just went out the window. So, but I will let you know. But it's easy to find if you're from Branson or Springfield. Go down there on 76 Music Boulevard, across from the Grand Country
Music Center.
Grand Country Inn, or the Grand Country Square there. And I got a great lineup in August. We've got the pastor of King's Chapel coming in, and then I've got Nick and Lucy. Actually, if you've never seen Zacchaeus will be on my show in August, and he's a great guy. I met him and his wife, and they're just great people. And so, Jerry, thank you very much for joining me on the show today, and you're welcome to come back anytime. In fact, we'll see what we can do about having you sing.
Who, me?
Yes, you.
Oh dear, I don't know if they can bear that.
But you're a great singer. You really are, and and people have said that you have that Tennessee Ernie Ford voice. So, but anyway, so can you give us? Do you have any information, last minute information that you'd like to give as far as who you are, your phone number? Do you have a website?
I don't have a website, Steve.
Okay.
I don't publicize myself.
Okay.
Because when I sing, I usually sing at events.
Right.
And I don't really need to go out much anymore because of my age. But
Okay.
I will go anywhere that when somebody wants me to sing, if I can get there.
Well, you heard it here. So if you want Jerry Lashley to come to your event or your church to sing, can you give us your phone number?
It's 832
Okay.
797
Okay.
1454.
Okay. Well, get a hold of Jerry, and he'll be more than happy to come to your event. And I guess, is there any other party words that you like to say before we leave?
Well, I like to sing his praises.
Amen. Amen.
At one time, I sang with a young lady who was the Grand Opera singer for Houston Grand Opera, and she was my neighbor. And she asked me one day, "What do you want to sing hymns for?" And I said, "I want to sing hymns, Tracy, because I love God more than I love anything else." And she looked at me and said, "Okay."
Amen. That's a good way of ending. But thank you, folks, for joining me, Steve Mickey Mac, and Brighter Living Live. And tune in next for Sacred Ways with Joy. Joy. He'll love that. Troy and Belinda Johansson and their guests. So thank you, Matt, for helping me engineer this program.
You're welcome.
And Jay's around the corner. And Jay, thanks for being here. And I guess we are going to part ways till next week. And I want you guys to have a brighter day. God bless.